Alright guys, welcome to your sixth PHP analysis tutorial, stock analysis, whatever the heck you want to call it. And now that we created that custom URL, what we can do with this URL is use it to download this CSV file or comma separated file, and whenever we have that comma separated file, we want to save it on our server. So let's go ahead and create a function that does that. So let me just go ahead and oh, sorry, whooping cough. Okay, I'm just going to name this get CSV file, and this custom function is going to take two parameters. The first parameter it's going to take is the URL. So basically, whatever we return in this function right here, whenever we have the URL created, we're going to pass it in so it knows where to download that data from. The next parameter I'm going to pass it in is, I'm just going to name this out file. Might as well just name it that. So what this is going to do is it's going to take two parameters. Where do you want to download the information from, and where do you want to save it? So we're going to be passing it in a file path, but I just don't want to give it one file path, or else it's going to rewrite it every time. Little tongue twister. So that's what it's going to be doing: downloading information and saving it on our server. So in order to do that, you're saying, how the heck do you download stuff from PHP? I mean, I know how to download it on the internet. Just click a button, download now. But how do you do it on PHP? Well, let me go ahead and show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and make a variable called content. And what the content is going to be is basically the entire, all the crap from the CSV file. So I'm going to be using a built-in function that's built into PHP called file get contents. Now what you do is it takes one parameter, which is a string. So go ahead and copy this and paste it right in there, and let me explain to you guys what this function does. It goes to the file that is located here. It could be either a local file on your computer, a text file that's in the same directory, or what we could do is we could pass it in a path to a website or a CSV file. And what it's going to do is it's going to take that file path and it's going to download that file. Not only that, but it's going to return it. It's going to return the entire file as a string of data. So it isn't like returning a CSV file or a text file. It's not returning a file at all. It's returning a string, a really, really, really long string. And why do we want that? Because we know how to work with strings. We can do a bunch of things to them. We can, replace them, trim them. We can twist them around, put them in arrays. We can work with strings really good. What we want to do ultimately is stick it in a database. So let me go ahead and open up, let's see, downloads, and here's something I downloaded. So basically we have all of this data in a string from each company. So basically all of this is stored in a variable called content. However, if we look at this, we notice a couple things. First of all of this data is looking pretty nice except this first line right here. Whenever we try to analyze this, it's going to say, okay, check the high from this, the high from this, the high from this, the high from this, the high from this. It's going to say, whoa, this is going to throw us off. So what we need to do is we need to get rid of this line. And there's a really easy way that we can do that. Since this is a string, we can use a function called string replace. It's actually called str replace, so str underscore replace. And this takes, let's see, it takes three parameters. The first parameter it takes is what content do you want to replace in your string. So let's go ahead and copy this first line, and it's going to go ahead and replace anytime it sees this crap in your string, it's going to go ahead and replace it. Well, Bucky, what's it going to replace it with? Well, it's going to replace it with whatever you type in your second parameter. So if you write tuna in here, anytime it sees this string, it's going to replace it with the word tuna. However, what we want to do is we want to replace it, we want to kind of take it out completely. So instead of replacing it with anything, replace it with nothing at all. Not a space, just nothing at all. And this is essentially going to delete it. Anytime we see this in a string, it's going to delete it. Now the third parameter is what string do you want to do this to? Well, the string we want to do it to is just content, and we're going to be, restoring it in the same variable content. So basically, whenever you use string replace, it takes three parameters. First, what string do you want to get rid of? What do you want to replace it with? And what do you want to do this to? And that's that. So now what we did is we're basically taking all of this out, so it's going to basically look like that. However, we're not done yet, and let me just, there we go, I almost messed that up. So right now we basically replace that. However, whenever we do that, it's basically going to look like this, and that's not good either. What we want to do is we want to trim all of the white space, and that means just the spaces and empty characters from the beginning and the end of the string. So right now the content variable is basically a string without this first line in it. However, there may be spaces at the beginning or end that can throw us off. So what we want to do is we want to use a function called trim, and it's just going to go ahead and trim the previous content. So now content always starts at the very beginning and always ends at the very end with no white space. So just remember that. What string replace does is get rid of the first line, and what trim does is it removes all the white space. So now we have a perfect string. It's only data, no white space, no other extra characters. It's exactly what we want. So now we need to put this in a file because right now, remember, it's not a file. It's just a string. And we can't just save strings on our server. We need to save them as permanent files. So how do we turn a string into a file that we can save on our server? In order to do that, we need a function called file put contents. Let me make sure I spelled that right. Now, this file put contents it's a function that was built in. I'm not going to be building this. This is already built into PHP. It takes two parameters. Your destination file, in other words, what file do you want to save it in, and a string of what you want to write in that file. So the file we want to save it in is output file, and this is basically going to be something like yahoo.txt or google.txt. I didn't give it the name yet, but whenever we call this function, I'm going to be passing it in that parameter. And the second one is, what string do you want to write into this file? So now we're basically taking this content and we're going to be writing it into a file called like google.txt or something. So all this file does, or excuse me, all this function does is basically it takes and downloads the CSV file, which is a comma separated file. It rips out the first line of text because we don't need it. It removes all the white space, and then it takes this and it saves it as a text file on our server. So we can work with text files, and we're actually going to be taking that text file and throwing it into a database. So there you go, there you have it. That is how you download the CSV file and pretty much convert it into a text file. So there you go. I'm out of breath. In the next tutorial, what I'm going to be doing is, now that we have that text file, we need to move it into a database. And this actually takes quite a bit of work. So it's probably going to be, maybe a couple of videos long. But that's what you have to look forward to. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.